Hello trainers, Ganeto here, and today we're diving together into Open Ultra League with my best teams video. Today we're gonna check out 4 teams in total, analyzing their biggest assets, how to play each team and also their core breakers, so that you can learn how to manipulate each team composition towards your advantage and of course have the upper hand over your opponents. Starting off now with the first team out of the total 4, and we're gonna have a Pelipper team up in front with the amazing Registeel and Giratina taking over as the bulky spotlight on the backline. So we're gonna be able to have a lot of neutral matchups with this team. I really like how well it can adapt to the meta, and of course when you're facing something like a Lantern or a Garvantula up in front with your Pelipper, which is something that Pelipper is pretty much afraid of because of the electricity that is in the atmosphere, I think that the backline can definitely cover for that weakness pretty much effectively. Feel free to rotate around your Giratina altered form, because with Giratina into play, not only you get extra bulk points for your team, but also you get access to a move like Dragon Claw, and in combination with that Shadow Claw you can get there fairly fast. 5 for the first, 4 for the second, which is pretty good, and if you want to go for that extra mile, feel free to use something like a Shadow Force as your nuke charge attack. With that in mind, also at the back we have a Pokemon like Registeel, which is definitely gonna rely a lot on those nukes, and I think that this Pokemon is gonna be the ultimate closer of Ultra League, especially when people are having something like a Charizard, a Talonflame or a Golisopod at the back lurking as their third Pokemon, so that the Registeel can absolutely one-shot down those two, or actually those three, with a simple Zap Cannon. We're looking at a pretty strong team that has only one core breaker, and that is unfortunately Tapu Koko. Fortunate enough though, this Pokemon is not gonna be that popular in the meta, because as you're gonna see, it is gonna be extremely spicy. But for this team, it is just gonna break it down. It has access to electric moves for Pelipper, it has access to fairy type moves for your Giratina, and of course not only can resist pretty much anything that Registeel can throw, but also can beat it down to those charge attacks. So that is gonna be all about the first team composition. Now let's move forward into team number 2. Now we will see a little bit of the new season move update into action with Poliwrath as our safe switch for that next team showcase, and also we're gonna pair it up with a Sandslash and the amazing Tentacruel up in front. I really like this team because it can be pretty neutral even against electric types, as you can see here, and I think that for Tentacruel you do not need Sludge Wave or Acid Spray as your second charge attack. You need Scald, you need Poison Jab, but for your second charge attack I would recommend going for the extra mile and that Blizzard to nuke down unsuspecting flyers or even dragon types, something like a Giratina for example. This move will give you access to a lot of nukes, and I really recommend to use since most opponents will not even be prepared for it. At the back we have Poliwrath and Sandslash, two pretty good Pokemon, and as well as a generalist you can call them if you want to, and these two can absolutely cover pretty much the entire meta. You have the anti-flyer on the face of Sandslash, you have the anti-steel Pokemon on the face of Poliwrath, and of course with a little bit of synergy this team can even surpass the Mad Boys and especially Swampert that might exist in the meta. As a core breaker, Lantern is gonna do a lot of work up in front on the Tentacruel, and of course at the back on that Poliwrath matchup, but still with a little bit of synergy, with a little bit of shield spending, you're still gonna be just fine even with Tentacruel up against a Pokemon like Lantern, because this is Ultra League after all, anything can survive super effective moves and you're gonna be just fine. Feel free to rotate around your Poliwrath, you're not gonna regret it. This Pokemon now with Icy Wind is gonna do a lot of work on the safe sweet spot, has access to the counters for Registeel, Icy Wind for the dragons, and perhaps you can get an amazing damage outburst on those fire types, especially Talonflame, Skeledirge, whatever, with a simple Scald. So this Pokemon is definitely one of the all-time classics now for that Ultra League format, returning in the top rankings of Ultra League from PvP, and I think you are not gonna regret using a team like this for your Poliwrath. Heading now into a Dragonite team, and I think that this one will just blow your mind, because not only it will get you some easy outcomes and super fast for Open Ultra League, but at the same time it has a lot of coverage for the entire meta. It is gonna be afraid of a little bit of those rock moves and perhaps a Registeel alongside Regirock, but still you can easily overcome those obstacles with ease, especially with your synergy. You're gonna see that any bad scenario that you're gonna have with your Dragonite up in front can easily be turned around with a simple twist to your Golisopod, because this Pokemon is an absolute beast on the Open Ultra League format, especially with its moveset. I recommend going for X-Scissor and Liquidation on your Golisopod, perhaps Aerial Ace for reasons, but besides that you're not gonna need at all, and overall a couple of X-Scissors in combination with a few of your Shadow Claws are still gonna do the trick against Virizion, while X-Scissor will also help you against Dark types, against Psychic types, and of course it's gonna be your main way to go against most threats. So at the back we also have a Pokemon like Tapu Fini, which is gonna help a lot against most threats that exist in the meta of Ultra League. You have a lot of coverage here against Swampert, against the fire types, you have a lot of coverage against fighters, so you can see how you can manipulate this team towards your advantage and of course have the upper hand over your opponents. Also, I really like how well you can manipulate those Giratinas that might come up against you. With a little bit of synergy, nothing is gonna stop you here, and of course you can get access to some heavy nukes like back-to-back liquidations, like a Moonblast, like a Shadow superpower or two. So yeah, the damage output is there just for you, and I recommend going for Shadow on your Dragonite, because the regular one might just fall short sometimes, while the Shadow will just get you there on the extra mile and you are not gonna regret it at all. This is the final team showcase, trainers, and let's see what we have going on now, because we're gonna lead with Aurorus up in front, while at the back both Virizion and Jellicent will serve as a safe back line. I really like how well Virizion can adapt to the meta, and I have found that Sacred Sword is not gonna be needed that much. You can always rely on this Pokemon with Leaf Blade and Stone Edge, so forget that Sacred Sword that I have here if you want to get rid of that legacy move, of course, because it is legacy after all. You cannot get it back via a regular TM, charge TM. So with that in mind, it's all up to you, but I recommend going with Leaf Blade and Stone Edge, because fire types are gonna be around. You need that extra coverage for those dragon types, especially something like a Giratina or something like a Dragonite. So yeah, that Stone Edge is definitely gonna help you out. Up in front, your Aurorus is gonna be just fine against most threats besides those fighters. So with that in mind, the backline here is where it can come into play, and especially against something like a Poliwrath. For the Oxys that I have here as a core breaker, unfortunately this is gonna be kind of a rough one, and I recommend going as a safe switch against the Deoxys on your Virizion, keeping that Jellicent for the end game, and who knows, perhaps it will turn some things around towards your advantage towards the end of the game. Jellicent here is gonna serve as a safe switch, but once again against the Deoxys, just use it as a closer, but as a safe switch in a general position like something like a Poliwrath for example, you're gonna be just fine by switching into your Jellicent and still keep your Leaf Blader at the back for the end game. I also think that Jellicent is gonna be served much better with Bubble for this format of Open Ultra League due to those fire types that might be in the meta, but it's all up to you to decide, so I will just leave it to your own choice, and you can see what fits you the most. Minimal differences, to be fair. Bubble is just gonna do one extra damage, not that much, not a game changer for sure. So that is gonna be all for today, trainers. Thank you for watching and for staying till the end. Just be sure to leave a huge like before you go, subscribe to the channel if you already haven't, and to be fair, I have no clue why you haven't subscribed yet, because more than 70% of you haven't subscribed, and that is telling me something. So with that said, once again, thank you for watching all this entire video, and of course I have 2 videos for you to check out. Feel free to check them out, and I will catch you up later into the next one.